Hey, folks. I just wanted to talk a little bit about how all the regulators are out there trying desperately to define Bitcoin. And of course, you know, the latest one is the EU's new definition for virtual currencies. So I guess, you know, in terms of the legal world, we've all got to figure out, oh, you know, what the heck is this so we can regulate it. And I don't hold it against anybody doing that. But, you know, the problem with that, though, is that almost all the people looking at it really don't seem to understand it. One of the things this definition was just so broad, you know, a digital representation of value that is neither issued by a central bank or public authority. You know, nor necessarily attached to a fiat currency, but is accepted by natural or legal persons as a means of payment and can be transferred, stored, or traded electronically. Yeah, I don't know. Okay, that's great, but then you run into the problems. Well, right here, the definition is so broad, you know, it may, you know, a lot of these currencies like Ethereum, for example, they may be traded on exchanges, they may mine them and all those things, but they don't necessarily serve as a means of payment. So, you know, this is what happens with these definitions, you know, and part of this, I'm going to get into this a little more. Part of this has to do with, you know, how, you know, men who are experts in certain fields but then don't really understand blockchain. They don't really understand cryptocurrencies, and especially when it comes to Bitcoin, make these pronouncements, you know, and you can just tell they just don't know what it is, and they always try to refer it back to something they do know, they do understand, and they just almost always hit the mark. I don't hold it against regulators. You know, I know, you know, come budget time, if you don't have, you know, cryptocurrency listed in your budget, you know, you're not going to get the money that, you know, the government is desperately trying to pay out to everybody to help regulate the cryptocurrencies. But the ironic thing, the irony about all this is, out of all these vast definitions we've gotten, I'll get into that a little bit more. What people are actually doing is proving how utterly unique and incredible, revolutionary and transformative this new means of what we would call of payments, and, you know, of trading and all the things that go along with blockchain and Bitcoin, for instance. Just what amazing this is, how amazing this is. It's unlike anything we've ever had before. So the point of this video, if you saw the title, it's you know, Bitcoin is the monolith. And of course, I also, when I say that, I also mean other cryptocurrencies as well. They're the monolith. Well, what's the monolith? I don't know if all of you remember 2001 Space Odyssey, Stanley Kubrick's amazing. When I was young, I just loved this movie, and the monolith has always been, I think, one of the more interesting elements in my life too. When I I often think about it. And well, what is the monolith? Well, everybody's tried to define it. Everybody's tried to figure it out. But I think there's a video right here, the meaning of the monolith revealed. You know, it's like some great mystery. But, you know, what was Stanley Kubrick's point behind the monolith? Well, I think it's a bit like J.R.R. Tolkien, you know, who said that it's just myth, you know, what he was doing. It's just a myth. It doesn't have to mean anything other than what it means to you. And in this, you know, like, for instance, in the Bible, you know, the story of David and Goliath. Well, what's your Goliath, you know? And for mankind right now, the question is, what's their monolith? And And I think Bitcoin and cryptocurrency definitely fits that term. I'm not going to play the video. You wouldn't get sound. I may play a little bit of it. You wouldn't get much sound if you could, but actually I will play it now that I think about it. I want to play this part too. I just think this so exemplifies what's going on with the world of cryptocurrency, and in particular Bitcoin. Everybody, I just love this. All the monkeys jumping around. Just they don't know what it is, right? But everybody's jumping around. Everybody's got something to say. Okay, so great. But there's a problem with that, and I'll get into that in a minute. What happens, when you're smart at what you do, and you look at blockchain and Bitcoin, you take about it, you maybe take a couple of days off and you try to study it and learn it, and you think you know something about it, and then you jump up and say some pretty stupid things. Here's my other one. This is one of my other favorite ones, is the Space Odyssey shot. I love this. So these are all the scientists, right? Let's see if I can find, let's see. They're all going up and approaching the monolith. They found one on the moon. Here's, we're touching it and trying to figure out what it is. And they're all in there studying it. I like that. And then here they all gather around, and, this is an example of Stanley Kubrick's humor. I mean, most people who are watching this probably don't even get it, just how hilarious it is. And they don't see the humor in Kubrick's films. Here let's all get around, and, we don't know what this is, but, I love this. He's got his camera. So, well, whatever it is, okay, guys, here's the photo op, right? Okay, let's take a picture. I just think that's hilarious. Well, who knows what it is, but let's all gather for a group photo. And that sort of seems to be what folks are doing now, don't you think? I mean, it's pretty amazing. Let me just make sure we're good. We're still recording. Good. So, I don't know if you've heard the story of the blind man and the elephant. The story of the blind man and the elephant. It originated in the Indian subcontinent. But it's all over, I'll put the link in there so you can look at it. But it's about, a group of blind men who get together and they touch an elephant to learn what it is like. Each one feels a different part, but only one part, such as the sight of the tusk. And they then compare notes and learn that they are in complete disagreement, And this is what we've got with the regulators, and I'm not holding it against them. But then on the other hand, the funny part about all that, right, is that they've actually, in their own little way, have helped to unlock the mystery of Bitcoin and exactly why it's such an amazing thing. So let me explain this. Bitcoin is officially a currency, a property, a money, and now a commodity. And this all comes from, this, and basically regulators all get together and they say, well, let's figure out how to regulate this, but I've got to make sure it's in my jurisdiction. So it's kind of a turf war between them, and they'll all kind of make these definitions. The CFTC has called it a commodity. The SEC is trying to make it a security so they can regulate it. FinCEN wants to call it money so they can regulate it. The IRS wants to call it property so they can tax it. I don't blame them for trying to do this. But, the interesting thing what they've discovered is that Bitcoin is maybe officially this, but that's what Bitcoin is in a way. It's all these things and so much more. And that's what makes it so revolutionary, right? For the first time in the dawn of since the dawn of humanity, right? We've actually got something that is all these things put together that can be all these things, and yet at the same time be none of them. You know, if you've listened to Andreas Antonopoulos, you know, he always defines it. You know, Bitcoin is basically a protocol. You know, it's like the HTTP of money, right? And or it's the internet of money, which is another way of thinking at it. I think those are all nice definitions, but I really don't think even those quite get to what it is. But I'll give you an example. So of a smart guy here, and I really want to give you this website because I'm going to give you the link. I can't show you the part. If you scroll down to his disclaimer, I think it just summarizes it. But, you know, so here's a guy, he knows a lot about security. So, well, it's time to say Bitcoin is a security. Well, you know, Bitcoin is not necessarily a security, or maybe it is, but that wouldn't at all define Bitcoin. That's for sure, calling it a security. But this guy knows securities. And of course, you know, what really annoys me about this page, if you'll see down here, if I click this little link right here, he's going to get me a little pop-up window that's going to say, hey, have you joined my group? You know, Seeking Alpha, you need to sign up or get the app or join. You know, he's got to go through all this trash, and I don't want to join his thing, but I'd love to read his article. You know, and this is the thing, you know, on the internet now, his article, he's trying to protect his intellectual property and he can't, right? And you know, but what happens, you know, when some of this stuff when you have blogging organizations that are run on a blockchain, and you could designate this article as being yours, you know, you could ledger it on a blockchain, right, and receive micropayments. And then you don't have to put all these freaking ads all over everything. You know, you could just be free to post, you know, but you want to sit around and define Bitcoin as a security? Fine. If that's all you see in it, fine. But, you know, to me, it's just getting a little silly. And the thing that really bugs me about all this is, let's see if I can get on. The thing that really bugs me about all this is his disclaimer, which I can't click to right now anyway, because he's going to give me this little pop-up ad and he's going to fade out the rest of the article. And because Bitcoin is so threatening, we've got to go these ways with credit cards and everything else, I guess. But anyway, in his disclaimer, he says, well, I don't own any Bitcoin. And so, you know, there it is right there. And I don't know how more you can make the point of how silly this is. He doesn't actually have it. I don't know if he's ever tried to. Who would know, right? If he claims he doesn't own any, has he ever had any? And you know, it's like today when I set up, I got in a new account with one of these exchanges. And, you know, it took 5 minutes to just get on there and fill out the form and send some Bitcoin over there and start trading. Man, you try to do that with like a stockbroker, you know, or a commodities broker or anything like that. If you want to set up an account there, like with Scott Trade, the advertisement here, you go look and see how long it's going to take you to get that account set up, you know, and to get that money transferred and all that stuff. And if you can't see just from that simple analogy just how powerful Bitcoin is, you know, it's an exchange, by the way, that's overseas, right? You go out there and try to open a brokerage account with an overseas broker and just see how far that gets you here in the United States. I mean, it's just amazing. If you can't see from that how that is going to just change everything, then I just don't know what to say for you. Now, I think this guy is a smart guy. Don't get me wrong. But when you don't understand it, you don't understand it. You know, stop to learn and then comment, you know. But it gets back to my whole point about, you know, cryptocurrency being the monolith. So the other one is the best example is Paul Krugman, right? I'll post a link for you again. You know, Paul Krugman does not understand Bitcoin. I'm not going to play it for you. You wouldn't be able to hear the volume anyway. But it gets back to this point of smart men who know a whole lot about other things and don't know anything about blockchain, and they just open up their mouths and start talking. And we're just seeing this over and over again. And in this particular one here, Krugman says, you know, digital currency, what's the big deal about Bitcoin? We already have digital currency. You know, basically, you know, most dollars, and this is true, you know, there's not one paper dollar for all the US dollar that's circulating in the economy. Almost all of it's digital. But yet that, comparing that to Bitcoin it's just unforgivable. So I'm just saying to you guys, don't be Paul. You know, when you talk about these things, try to understand it a little bit better. But remember, the most important point about all this is that all these things that everybody's seeing in Bitcoin is what makes it the monolith. It's that big fracking thing that we're just not quite sure what it is, right? Nobody's really quite sure. Everybody's trying to define it. And I just want to say one other thing too, is that when money changes, everything changes, all right? And you can just go back and study history, you know, from the rise and fall of the Roman Empire, you know, to the different dynasties in China and everything, the Persian Empire, the Greeks, everything. Money is what it was all about, and they all had different ways of managing and doing money, and it's what helped to create civilization. And when money changes, everything is going to change. Okay? So just remember this. It's that big something that's going to just literally change humanity. It's this next step in evolution as far as I'm concerned. And it behooves you, especially whatever your field is in, if it's law, if it's philosophy, whatever, the smart thing right now is to figure out how these cryptocurrencies are working, because this stuff is coming to your doorstep, and I'm just not kidding you. It's a revolution that is coming to your doorstep. So get ready, folks. The monolith is coming.